afternoon. This is Summit News. I am Farida Olaiton Adebayo. Here are the headlines. Global Summit raises $4 billion for schools despite aid roll. Dozens of Fulani herders killed in Nasarawa explosion. And now the news in details. World leaders pledged more than $4 billion to support schools through the Global Partnership for Education. The world is facing a girls' education crisis, the education campaigner said, with more than 130 million out of schools around the world and millions more at weeks of not returning after the pandemic. Kenya's president, Uhuru Kenyatta, told the conference the fundraising event could avert an education catastrophe. This is the Swiss Army knife, complete with Allen key, a screwdriver and everything else, he told the summit. Let us hear from our correspondent in Kenya. Over to you, Abdurazak Zainab.
Global Summit raises $4 billion to support schools through the Global Partnership for Education. The Global Partnership for Education, which distributes funding in more than 90 supports the learning of 175 million children during the next 5 years. Julia Gillard, former Australian Prime Minister and the chair of the Education Aid Organization, was confident that the full $5 billion would be raised, but different national budget cycles would mean it would arrive in stages.
The current lack of resources is compounded by a lack of research, and in an audience like this, when I speak of research, you are all so familiar. Donors understandably look for the best use of their money to ensure it is directed to what works. In turn, evidence of what works turbocharges the effectiveness of advocacy. Part of what has held the cause of global education back is the fragmentation and paucity of information about effective strategies for schooling and learning.
The pandemic had disrupted education in all countries, but it is much worse in poorer countries where many families lack access at home to internet connection or electricity.
With a precise effect. In contrast, education is a locally delivered service which must be sensitive to culture and context. Learning happens over years. Measuring outcomes and improving quality are the subject of hot debates in our own nation. I know that only too well from my work in developing the transparency about needs and results which the website My School gives.
Abdurazak Zainab, reporting from Kenya, Summit News.
Thank you, Zainab Abdurazak. The authorities in Nigeria say at least 27 Fulani herders were killed in an explosion near the border between the central state of Nasarawa and Benue on Tuesday. The police say they are investigating the cause of the explosion. The area has seen frequent disputes over resources between pastoral and farming communities. Some local media reported that the explosion may have been a botched airstrike by the Nigerian military, but this has not been independently confirmed. Here is the quick recap of the headlines once again. Global Summit raises $4 billion for schools despite aid roll. Dozens of Fulani herders killed in Nasarawa explosion. Thank you for joining us at Summit News. You can follow us on all our social media platforms at Summit TV. My name is Farida Olaiton Adebayo. Thank you and have a wonderful day.
الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين سبحان